What's up, everybody? I'm Roth, and this is the weekly roundup for GameSkinny, and I am again joined by Steven Johnston.
Hello, everybody.
That guy right there. So first, we'll go ahead and talk about this article that I thought was hilarious, talking about drunk people's reactions to the debate between PS4 and Xbox One. And I think it took place in Australia. I think that was the main accent I heard.
Yeah, I'm not really sure if the takeaway here is that a lot of people don't really care or know about the whole debate.
Right,
like,
yeah, I think that's
that us in the game industry are just like in this world where it matters.
Yeah.
And everybody else is like, whatever, I'll make a decision at Christmas.
My kids will make a decision.
Yeah, my kids will make a decision. I mean, clearly these people were not clinging to every single word of a presentation at E3.
Right.
And the stuff that came before. So,
but it is a funny video. They make some really funny comments because they all seem to be pretty wasted.
Yeah, the picture that he's carrying around is priceless. It's actually 4 PlayStation 1s like mashed together, and it says PlayStation 4 below it, and then it's a picture of the actual Xbox, the original Xbox, with marked Xbox One, and it's funny because the pictures are inaccurately accurate, I guess would be the thing. Anyway, you got to see it. It's in the video, and it's funny.
Indeed. So I thought this was another funny one. 4 games that may as well admit they're sex games. The one that popped out on me the most, I thought that was funny too, God of War. But Mass Effect 3, I mean, the whole game, the plot lines all lead up to the moment where you have sex with somebody. That's how the whole game works.
Yeah, pretty much.
And then this little meme here with...
You don't have to.
You don't have to.
Are you just saying that every playthrough you've had has culminated in sex?
I guess so. I mean...
Maybe that's you. Maybe that's not the game.
Maybe it's that in-depth, all the decision-making and the results from them. But it just seems like everything you do gets you with some other person.
Certainly if we considered all of us playing the game to be like some sort of parallel universe for Commander Shepard, then the amount of children that he's fathered would be greater probably than any other game character out there, except for possibly the hot coffee, thing from Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah, that was the other one here, Grand Theft Auto.
So the thing that's missing from here, Howler. If you watch PewDiePie's playthrough of Howler,
he makes a ton of sex noise.
Yeah, basically. so there's really like a something that should be added here, but otherwise it's a pretty funny article.
Yes. All right. So something that I absolutely agree with, PC gaming is the future, and the 5 reasons that he brings up are upgradability, adaptability, the all-in-one platform, MMOs, and Steam. Those are all very valid. I think there's some more that need to go into that. But I guess really what it all comes down to is the upgradability, because you buy a console, and that's the console that they milk for 7 years, and it's shit by the end.
Yeah, I mean, in some ways they learn to maximize it by the end, and then in some ways, PC gaming sort of assumes that your PC is always going to get better. So they optimize a little less.
Right.
So like Crysis came out, and people were like, oh my god, I don't have a supercomputer, I can't play this thing. And then 6 months, a year later, average hardware ran it fine, but had they been unable to rely on that progression, possibly they would have spent more time optimizing it. So I think there's a bit of an interplay between the two when it comes to just sort of performance. Like the console generation during it, they learned to optimize some things. But you're never going to be able to beat the fact that
the hardware's the same.
You slap another graphics card.
Yeah.
And if every couple of years you buy a $200 graphics card, you've got essentially a new computer. And then, every 5 years. So I mean,
processor.
So in the end, are you spending a similar amount on this console? Maybe.
Yeah, that's what the point I was going to bring up is that's the reason why consoles exist, is because it's a rigid thing that they come out with. It's the same across the board. It's the same exact unit. But for PC, it's like modding out a car. It's a similar thing.
Yeah.
So it might end up being more expensive, but the output is better.
Sure.
But so, there has to be both. There could never get to a point where it's just PCs and no consoles. There's got to be both because money's involved.
But I mean, PC gaming is is where all of those options exist.
Right.
Meaning, the companies who want to optimize their games can. And the companies that want to just do bleeding edge can. And the companies that want to take up 9 million gigs on your hard drive because they've got high-res images throughout. I mean, they can do that, Yeah. So, I mean, clearly it's the more open, sort of adaptable gaming platform.
Right.
But
I guess the point to come away with that is that PC will always be leading the pack and console will be following because PC can always stay ahead of console.
Sure.
That's
I mean, the only thing it can't stay ahead on is predictability.
Yeah.
And that predictability of the platform and the console side is an advantage in certain cases. But, I mean, me as a gamer, I've always enjoyed the PC experience. I like a console. I like a keyboard interface.
Yes.
There's certain things to it. So, there's always going to be a bit of sort of different camps.
Yeah. So, the GameSkinny Roundtable podcast did a interview with the creator of Tangiers, Alex Harvey, and I thought it was a pretty interesting...
So what's this game about?
It's a stealth game that's just really trippy. I think that's kind of the main gist, but he's adding in
is it like Aeon Flux? It's kind of Aeon Flux kind of look.
He was saying it's like Thief and one other game I can't remember. It started with a B. I can't remember the name of it. But he's got some interesting mechanics that he was talking about that he added in. Something about where when you come up to an NPC and they say something, the words that they say pop up above their head, and you can take those words and use them to do something, and like trick other NPCs into doing certain things to progress the story, weird. It's something I've never heard of before. I hope it goes well for him. But yeah, it's definitely a very, very unique game.
Cool. I'm always supportive of people doing weird stuff.
Right, yeah. It's a very artsy, weird, never seen anything like it kind of game. But it's a good interview they did, and it's worth listening to. I guess if you got an hour, but still. So we had the biggest fight in EVE Online yet. Passed up 4,000 participants, and our contributor Matt had a really good take on it, that the media is, using this to try and get people to play the game or, just make a cool story, but they're advertising that there's these epic space battles in EVE, and it's setting this expectation for players coming into the game.
Sure.
That's unrealistic, because people are going to come into the game and expect to get into these huge, 4,000 person fights and have a good time. But the thing is when you get that many people in one place, it lags out the server and it's basically unplayable. The reason that people thoroughly enjoy these battles in EVE is because bragging rights. I was there. I took place. I participated in this epic event.
Sure, things do happen in these fights. They happen slowly.
Exponentially slower.
Yeah, I mean, they happen at 10% of the speed.
Right.
So, but I mean, it's a lag fest still. Additions the CCP has made makes it playable.
Right.
But I mean, really, like, the way to think of these massive fights in EVE is like, this is the culmination of a bunch of stuff that happened before. And the culmination of a bunch, and the beginning of a bunch of repercussions for after this.
Right.
And EVE is so dynamic with the number of people that are in it that the events leading up to this big fight are really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And the repercussions of the fight, when you take out, the capitals and the super capitals, if you can get them, and some of the big ships that are difficult even for the big alliances to just immediately replace. Mm-hmm. Certainly if they're taking on large numbers. But that actual event where it happens, can be, a bit of, I think one of the quotes in here is, I've been here for an hour and I've made 6 shots.
Right.
That. So, but that's just one of the dynamics of EVE. Like, this is one type of fight, and it's rare. But they made a game that's capable of having 4,000 people fight.
Right.
Even if they fight slowly.
Right.
There's 4,000 of them. And that's special.
Mm-hmm.
But I think Matt's point is that, the 5 and 10 person and the 20 person combat in EVE is really awesome.
Yeah.
And it's full speed.
Right.
And so...
But it's not as impactful of these large fights.
Yeah, but, there's series of 20 and 30, 40-man engagements that lead up to this.
Right.
And so for every for every 4,000 person fight, there might be hundreds of 50 and 100 people fights, that go full speed. And so Eve is capable of doing some large scale stuff, hundreds of people interacting at normal speed.
Right.
And, some other games with 200 people on screen would have some problems.
Yeah,
so
massive problems.
Yeah, so I mean, you're sort of in this rarefied air where you're like, oh, look, their 4,000 people was slow. And it's like, well, it didn't crash. They didn't have to tell them to stop.
Right.
They just made a game that's capable of supporting it in
right.
by any means, and that's pretty cool. Yeah. But I think the better story of Eve is in the smaller engagement stories. Like,
right.
If you just want to tell people about the game, and like what they might actually be expecting to do, a couple of months after they start playing, they're going to get a lot more fun out of the 5 and 2 man stuff than the 4,000 people.
Yeah, still my favorite story about Eve was when this guy went undercover into a corporation for 3 years and climbed a ladder in the ranking system just to get high enough to get access to the bank, cleaned them out, dipped out. Over, yeah. It took him 3 years and he dipped out with all their money.
Yeah.
That's Eve.
There's some dedicated folks out there.
Yeah. So, one of my favorite titles for a long time now, the Twitter shitstorm that resulted in Fez 2 being canceled. So, Phil Fish got into some internet engagement with some other gaming journalists on Twitter. Some things were said, and he cried his way home. So,
yeah, I mean, this kind of has, I'm taking my Legos and going home written all over it. Hopefully for the fans of the game, he comes to his senses. I mean, this sounds like rage quitting, right? I mean,
yeah, it is. That's exactly what people are calling it.
We've heard this before. You guys don't respect me.
Yeah.
You're down a priest. I don't get any love here. I'm taking my warrior and going. I mean, this is in MMOs. This is in any sort of group dynamic.
Yeah.
I mean, it's ultimately, if he's not getting enjoyment out of what he's doing, then I guess he can do it every once in his time. But it seems
I don't know what he's gonna do now, but it does seem like he's. I think he'll come back. I think he got frustrated and rage quit for now. Not thinking about the implications of dropping a game that hundreds of thousands of people are waiting for. He's very respected for what he came out with, and he lets a few little guys trolling him get to it.
Yeah, I mean, certainly he's shown that he's got sort of like he can be an artistic trendsetter.
Right, yeah. If you watch Indie Game the movie, he's the entire movie, he's sad and he's stressed out and he looks like he's about to start crying. And there are definitely some things that happened to him in the creation of the first Fez that, anybody would get very emotional over. And, his partner that was helping him build the game just, quit on him. And he had this contract deal with him that was screwing him over so that he could have possibly not even been able to finish the game that he wasted, 2 years of his life on. He went through some crap. And I understand why he was so damn sad and all of that. But he, at this point, I think he just has a problem with he just can't control his emotions. He gets all
I think he's got to separate a vocal minority from
the
fans, and hopefully he can see that and sort of get it back together. Certainly for the people waiting for the game, I hope so.
Yeah, I hope he secretly behind doors finishes Fez 2 and just comes out one day. Hey, I finished it.
So yeah,
just kidding.
So
it would be a huge game. He would sell hundreds of thousands of copies.
That could be.
That's what I think.
Seems unlikely.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. But he did tell somebody to go kill himself at one point. I should probably mention.
Well, Temper Slayer.
Anyway, that would be the weekly roundup. Well, I guess we can't really call it the weekly roundup because I was gone for a week. So this is the week and a half roundup. And I think I might do another one on Friday. Maybe Saturday, Sunday, Monday.
The more roundups, the merrier.
The more roundups, the merrier. So, till next time.
Later.
Bye.